It's 9 o'clock. We'll call the December 11th, 2018 Stearns County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Roll call will show that all the commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there anyone here for the public access forum? Anyone for the public access forum? Public access forum, anyone? Seeing no one, we will go immediately to the consent agenda. We do have one addition to the consent agenda, which is got to do with broadband. Commissioner Merrick.
Mr. Chair, I will move the consent agenda and ask for an explanation or an update on the broadband issue, which is B3.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Dr. Williams.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, what the action you're being asked to do here is approve a contract with a company called Neo Connect out of Colorado, and they're experts in the broadband area. And we conducted a request for proposals process. We had five firms that replied to that request. Two of them didn't meet our budget. Three of them did. We interviewed those three with our task force on Friday, and came to this recommendation to contract with Neo Connect. What the company will do is do a feasibility study about opportunities to improve broadband in the Bruton, Belgrade, El Rosa area. And so they'll take a look at the market, they'll take a look at the technology that's being used now, they'll look at the current providers, and hopefully come up with a plan for actually what infrastructure changes are necessary, and identify potential partners, potential funding, so that we can come up with a project that will improve broadband in that area. Hopefully, and we chose this area, the task force chose this area because it's unserved and underserved in broadband. And hopefully what we end up with here is a model that we can work in other areas of the county too, because we really focused on one area rather than the whole county.
Okay, that was going to be my question. What about the other dead spots? I know there's some up around Holdingford, St. Stephen area, and around Rockville.
There certainly are, and hopefully this is a project that we can model elsewhere.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, just to tag on to that, because some counties, some of these firms did whole counties, and other ones just did parts of the county. Because Stearns County is so large, this is probably the best way to go. And if we can maybe build out something here, now we have a model probably to use as we go forward. And somebody that has the expertise of Stearns County, to carry, that throughout the whole county. So,
Commissioner Persky.
Yeah, and of course, I think we're all concerned about funding, and so, we lobby the federal government, we lobby state government, and then, of course, we look at our own coffers, but, I'd hate to see us spending county money when, there might be money coming through the state or federal government, so hopefully that message is being heard, in Washington and in St. Paul, that, we can maybe get something moving, but I know we all have that need out there, we all hear about the need.
It's one of the reasons that we're timing this the way we did is we want this feasibility study to be completed by March of 2019, and we hope that will put us in a position, if the state does approve border-to-border grant funding next year, and we think that the guidelines for the new federal appropriations will be out by that time too. So hopefully this study will be timely with those types of grants. Also remind you that this $50,000 contract is half funded by the Blandin Foundation through their grants too.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer.
Neo Connect, isn't that the outfit that worked on the Department of Motor Vehicles thing?
Minlars?
Just checking, I get confused
They are
with
not.
all
They are not.
all the letter names,
And you notice in the cover memo there too, you can see who's on that task force. And, we have the superintendent of schools, and we have representatives from the Belgrade Council, a couple of townships, and Commissioner Notch has been serving on there too, and we have 2 private sector representatives from businesses out in that area too.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Merrick?
Is this one of the items that's included, or not the item itself, but in the legislative priorities that you're going to be discussing with legislators tomorrow?
Yeah, we do have broadband funding on that.
That's what I thought. Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, the consent agenda has been moved and seconded. Discussion has occurred. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is St. Cloud Area Planning Organization. We have Brian Gibson here.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me here today. I'm here today to ask your approval for a series of changes to the Joint Powers Agreement that establishes the St. Cloud Area Planning Organization. I think most of you are probably familiar with us. You know that the APO is responsible for planning and programming the use of federal transportation dollars, surface transportation dollars within the metropolitan area. The APO is the federally required metropolitan planning organization for the St. Cloud metro area. In the early 1960s, U.S. DOT, in the wake of handing out grants to states to build the Eisenhower interstate system, in some states, that process of planning and building the interstates was not collaborative, it was not cooperative, and the federal government began to be sued by individuals and by local jurisdictions who didn't want it or didn't want it where the state said it was going to be built. And so they, in their wisdom, they said, you know, there needs to be a multi-jurisdictional, interjurisdictional planning body that brings all the cities and the counties and the state together to plan to write one transportation plan for the entire metropolitan area so that everyone's on board. It should involve public input, public feedback so that they're on board, there's consensus, and that's the role that the APO plays now in the St. Cloud area. As such, I report to a board that's made up of elected officials from all of our member jurisdictions, the 5 cities, over 5,000 people within the metro, and the 3 counties. I have a board of 36 members, which, if you can imagine a county commission of 36, it gets unwieldy. It's sometimes hard to get quorum. Decision-making, you know, there's a point where there's so many cooks in the kitchen and so many different perspectives that decision-making gets more difficult. So in April of 2017, my board asked me to develop a series of options for how they might restructure the APO. And I've been working with them for about a year and a half to get to the changes that were included in your packet. So some of these changes are, you know, including federal language where it's relevant, providing some clarity. But the big change is in the structure of the APO board. So what we're proposing is reducing the board from 36 members to 12. So currently, the City of St. Cloud gets 11 members, everybody else gets 3. The restructured board, St. Cloud would get 3 members, everyone else would get 1. And that's the big change. I have presented this to Benton County, Sartell, Sauk Rapids, Waite Park, and Metro Transit. They've all approved, not to add pressure, but just to let you know that there is consensus out there, I think, for these changes. And I'll be presenting to St. Joe and St. Cloud and Sherburne County as soon as I can get on an agenda. So with that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Notch.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for bringing this up. Did the membership that's on the APO, they, I'm assuming, kind of so far have agreed to the plan going forward?
In October, we presented these changes to the current APO board, and they did recommend changes. Yep.
Was that unanimous?
No, there were 3 no votes.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Merrick?
I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but I'm wondering if there's been discussion about having Stearns County with an additional, because of the size and location, to have an additional rep, to have 2 on there?
There has not been that discussion.
Has not. I know I served on that board a long time ago. Some of the rest of my colleagues here serve on the board currently. Has that discussion ever come up?
That's part of it, Dwayne, but I think what they're recommending reflects the amount of money that jurisdictions spend to support it. And if this is, it sounds to me like this is concurrent with, I haven't looked at what everybody pays lately, but that's, historically it's been like that. I St. Cloud pays a bunch more.
So are my current colleagues here that are on the board comfortable with this?
Go with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Persky?
Commissioner Merrick, you do bring up a good point, you know, seeing that St. Cloud does have 3 members, and I imagine that's based on population and yeah, and the number of projects that they have, number of roads, bridges, and things like that. Also, the board is at 12, and I'm just wondering if it would be better to have an odd number.
I don't know.
I don't know, Brian, if that's a consideration either. You know, with 12, we have a possibility of a hung jury on issues. So, but otherwise, there's been little opposition. Personally, I have liked the larger board in that it does provide people with a broader range of perspective, whereas with my representation, I don't, you know, you've got Persky's opinion, but you don't have necessarily the opposing opinion. Is that correct, Lee?
Well, I will.
Yes and no. The punchline is, with 36 members, is it currently?
Yeah.
Yeah, people don't show up.
Yeah.
You know, so we got to try something different. So I don't know if that agrees or disagrees with your perspective, but that's their problem they're trying to solve.
And I will add, Commissioners, that within the draft changes, the board does have the ability to appoint additional members to the board. So, for example, if it's not uncommon to see state DOTs sit on MPO boards as non-voting members. And so that's always a possibility. We discussed at a policy board meeting what other sorts of non-jurisdictional representation the members felt could sit on the board, and someone from the economic development community was, you know, sort of the top. Only about 33% of the folks felt that that was appropriate. But so they could appoint someone from GSDC to sit on the board, either as a voting or non-voting member. That would take obviously a majority of the sitting board members to approve that. But to your point, Commissioner Persky, it is possible for the board, if they feel like they need additional perspective, they can get that. They can have that person come in and make them part of that decision-making process.
Also, that I can remember in situations in the past where a small city, shall go unnamed in my district, wanted to be the tail that wagged the dog, and their contribution in terms of writing checks is the smallest it could be and still be a member. So there have been abuses. Will this correct it? I'm willing to try. Gosh, I mean, things got to be a little smoother.
And in terms of the even and odd number of members, and I think I know who Commissioner Lenzmeyer is referring to, right? That jurisdiction could again decide, yeah, we want to be part of the APO process, and then we'd have 13, right? Because they would get one.
And
if the city of Rockville wanted to join.
And their big
right?
threat was always, well, we're going to quit. Well,
Commissioner Merrick?
Yeah, I appreciate the dialogue here, and I agree with Commissioner Lenzmeyer that it's time to do something different. When I was involved at the APO, it got very unwieldy. People didn't show up and that sort of thing. On the balance about if there's tie votes, that's real simple. Then whatever the motion is doesn't pass. So that's a non-issue for me. So I think this is a step in the right direction.
Yes.
Whether it's the perfect solution, we don't know, but we don't know if we don't try. So I'm going to support it.
and if it doesn't work, we'll change it again, but give it a shot. I'd move we approve this.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second with a comment.
Okay. Commissioner Notch?
You know, I haven't attended the last couple, but I know the ones I attended, you know, as well. Even a dialogue seems to occur just amongst certain ones. Other ones, you know, not, maybe they just don't have anything to say at the moment, but seems like, you know, some of the municipalities, you know, don't really even participate. You know, it's, and maybe they're fine with, you know, the status quo of what's going on, or maybe it's a lack of interest, I'm not sure, but yeah, when I did attend, there was a good portion of the, you know, group of 36 that did not show up. So, yeah, I'm okay with shrinking it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too. And just a comment, I know we've struggled at attendance, which is unfortunate because I think the business that we do at hand is quite relevant to all the communities and very important. And when we don't have even a quorum, it's a little bit disheartening. So yeah, I'm good with reducing the size as long as there's representation across all members.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian. We are up to item D, Public Works. Jody Tyke is here.
Bob Kroll, you can't run the world.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My items start in your agenda packet on page 68. My first item is I'm asking the board to approve and authorize final payment for the 2017 Stock Center Maintenance Shop parking lot resurfacing. The final contract did underrun by about 7%, and that's because we had significantly less grading than we originally intended on. So I'm asking the board to approve and authorize final payment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
For my second item, I have two resolutions before you. The City of Albany is planning to submit a transportation alternatives funding application for a Safe Routes to School project. Because the City of Albany is under 5,000 population, they need a project sponsor, and that needs to be the county. The resolutions are that we agree to sponsor it and guarantee that that local share will be available, and then agree that this facility, if they are funded and it gets constructed, needs to be maintained for a minimum number of years. The City of Albany has acknowledged that these are their responsibilities and not ours as a project sponsor. There is a map on page 75 in your agenda packets. This is all along Forest Avenue in the City of Albany, so this is not along a county facility either, which reinforces that we do not maintain it. So I'm asking the board to adopt both of those resolutions so the City of Albany can submit their transportation alternatives application.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Just a separate question of the City of Albany. Is that roundabout still going to be put in there?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe it's in a couple of years anyway, but they do
Okay.
have some MnDOT funding in there, and Stearns County has their share out in 2023, so we would pay back the city.
Okay, so it's down the road. Okay.
Yes.
Any discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
As a side note, at your next board meeting, I do believe there will be another Safe Routes to School application that I'll be asking the board to sponsor, but that will come in the future. And I have no miscellaneous unless the board has anything for me.
Anybody?
Thank
you, Jody. Okay, we are up to Parks. We've been Anderson here and Sarah Weed.
Morning, Commissioners. Ben Anderson, Parks
Morning.
Director. I'm here today with Sarah Weed, the Park Operations Coordinator. The agenda item we have in front of you today is requesting a resolution supporting the Transportation Alternatives funding application for the Beaver Island Trail Extension. The Beaver Island Trail Extension is about a 4.5-mile long project, pedestrian, bicycle, and snowmobile corridor. It spans between Opportunity Drive and the City of Clearwater's already constructed pedestrian trail, essentially right along County Road 75. The county owns the majority of an old railroad corridor between there. The City of St. Cloud plans on continuing their portion of the Beaver Island Trail from its current terminus near the McStop area down to Opportunity Drive in 2020.
Stearns County Parks Department is applying for a $400,000 grant under Minnesota's Department of Transportation, Transportation Alternative Program for the fiscal year 2023. It is required that Stearns County fulfills a 20% match of $80,000, which can be funded by the Stearns County Capital Improvement Plan, State of Minnesota Legacy Fund, bonding funds, and other grants.
So this application was unanimously supported by the Parks Commission at its November meeting, and this project is one of 2 projects identified as the next department priorities for the Parks Department. With that, we'll field any questions.
Commissioner Notch.
Yeah, Ben, just a question. So the grant amount is 400,000.
Correct.
And the total cost is 2 million. Is there a breakdown of where the rest of the funds come from?
So this 400,000 would be a starting point for us to go after legacy funds, and this 400,000 could be used as, or will be used to, as matching funds for those state dollars too, because yes, there is a big funding gap in there.
Similar to Lake Wobegon
Right,
Trail.
exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. I do have an issue with this, where it says where all of the match is going to come from. It's so wide open. I would like to see that nailed down more. I have no problem if it would come out of legacy funds, but it leaves open the possibility, again, it's going to come right off of the taxpayers' levy in the county, and that part kind of concerns me.
Right, and just to leave that open-ended, because once we sign this resolution, we are agreeing to provide those funds. So if for some reason we don't end up with the state funds to come back for that, then the county would have to come up with that 80,000.
See, that's the reason I wouldn't support it, is because unless we can say it's not going to come out of the levy, then I would support it. Commissioner Notch.
And then, Ben, if this gets built in the end, is the county responsible then for maintenance?
Yes, the
Trail?
county would be responsible for maintaining and operating, which the county already owns a corridor, and we already maintain that corridor, just not to the level of having a bituminous surface trail out there.
Okay. And I know this has been an ongoing discussion, too, of a way to somehow generate revenues to help with maintenance of the trails, and
Right.
maybe somewhere down the road we'll figure out how to make that work. But when you look at the big picture, spending $450,000 per mile of bike trails just seems astronomical. When we hear from Jody all the time that we're not getting our regular roadways caught up.
Right. In the past, the public, the Stearns County residents have supported pedestrian and bike trails and that improvement. This would fulfill a gap between 2 trails, with the possibility of an offshoot going to Warner Lake County Park as well.
Okay. You brought up county residents. Would private sector contributions be able to count for?
Possibly. For the Lake Wobegon Trail, we did bump into the Burnix Family Foundation for some grant dollars, and then there is currently at the Community Foundation, the public does have the opportunity to donate funds.
Yeah, I would like to see something done that would take the levy out of the picture here. Commissioner Notch.
Just as a follow-up, would this kind of follow like Lake Wobegon, where maybe the city of St. Cloud is going to contribute some, or some of these other entities?
We have not had those discussions.
Because I think that one, didn't we have like Wade Park and St. Cloud all agreed to?
Right. So this would be specifically probably just the city of St. Cloud and possibly, I guess, Clearwater is who we could ask. So.
I
Mr.
can't
Lenzman.
recall if it's a formal agreement or not, but operationally, the way that the trail system maintenance, and for that matter, I suppose some construction has been set up, if it's in your jurisdiction, it's your cost. So this proposal is consistent with that method of operation. So this isn't a new way, to build the rocket ship.
Yeah, and I would, excuse me, Commissioner.
Go ahead, Mr. Merrick.
Is this the first step in this process? I mean, is there going to be another opportunity for the board to weigh in? Or I see we were talking about extension in 2023, so is the board going to have another opportunity to say yes or no to this project?
We can certainly bring it back. However, once the application is submitted, there will be, on February 13th, Sarah will present to the Transportation Board, and my understanding is that once the board decides, then that funding is available. The reason it's 2023 is because the way these funds work is we apply for them now, but they don't become available until 2023. So we have, a number of years to look for that legacy or other state dollars to fund that 80,000. And the Beaver Island Trail has been designated as a regionally significant trail by the Legacy Committee.
So you've got about 4 years to work on these other funding opportunities.
Right.
Mr. Persky.
I take a look at, what we're doing with trails. I know the area cities also have allocated part of their half-cent sales tax for the purpose of regional trails. And of course, the Beaver Island Trail all ties into that whole network. As far as putting out the money for the grant, the opportunity to get those dollars isn't there unless we're fishing. You have to have some bait on the hook if you're going to get those federal or state dollars. And if those dollars are allocated, many times it's allocated specifically for trails, and it will not go any other place. And so we've got to at least make an opportunity to be out there trying to get those bigger dollars, and it just doesn't happen unless you ask for them.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer.
The short answer to Dwayne's question is yes. The highway system and the trail system are in a similar situation in that as we go forward, it's less about new trails and more about maintenance of existing trails. You can go out there right now on Wobegon, I'd say probably just beyond Albany. What we have is roots from trees adjacent to right-of-way that are lifting the asphalt. And we get complaints on that already, but there's some parts of our trail system are old enough that they require maintenance just as our highways do. And so, yes, we'll be spending on maintenance.
And that spending is approximately $1,000 per year upkeep per mile, as I understand it. That was several years ago statistics, so it's probably more now.
Yeah, I would say it's probably, I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can
Remember
certainly get that for you.
Those came from Chuck
so.
Woken, so it's a few years back.
Sure.
Whoa, ancient history, okay.
Commissioner Notch.
One last question. A while back, we heard, I don't know the exact route of this Beaver Island Trail, but didn't Anderson Trucking, didn't they have a concern of where that trail was going to be laid out?
Right, because of their new, I think it's their maintenance facility off of County Road 75, and the county actually owns on both sides of their entrance into there, but we have worked with the city of St. Cloud to, we issued an easement, so they will actually be building to the driveway, and then from the Anderson Trucking driveway towards Clearwater is where the county will pick it up. And we have since gone through the process and it'll be built to MnDOT standards for that crossing through there, because they do have big trucks and stuff. So the trail users will have to stop at that crossing,
Okay.
just like the rest of the trail and other trail systems. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just remember something came up that they were concerned with
Sure.
potential issues.
Right.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, is there a motion of any sort?
I'd move that.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Roll call.
Commissioner Merrick. Aye. Commissioner Persky.
Aye.
Commissioner Notch.
Aye.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Mergen.
Nay.
Passes 4-1.
Passes 4-1. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we will recess the regular county board meeting to conduct the Human Services Board meeting. And we have Melissa Huberty here.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Melissa Huberty, and I am the Human Services Administrator. And on our Human Services consent agenda, we have 11 items this morning, which are on pages 82 through 113, item F1 through F11, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions on any of the items?
I'll move approval of the consent items for human services.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? I do have questions on number 5. This says the cost here is more than doubled. I was wondering who is paying for this beforehand?
And actually, I'm glad you asked that question. I actually brought Julie Ellis this morning. She knows the details of that contract, which I will ask her to come forward and see if she can talk about the details.
Good morning, Mr. Chair,
Morning.
Commissioners. I'm Julie Ellis. I'm the Division Director of Community Supports. Are you referring to the DT&H transportation to the Wacosa
Yeah, the
contract?
whole thing is going from $441 per trip to $899 per trip in 2 years. More
Yeah.
than doubling, and who's been paying for, and there's some other items in there too, I think, where.
So I can give you the short answer and the long answer.
Okay.
Essentially, the short answer is we've been shorting them on transportation for a number of years to the tune of around $200,000 last year. It kind of came to my attention this past year when Wacosa acquired the ICI operations. And looking at the transportation rate that we had set for ICI, it was significantly higher than the Wacosa rate. So this is an attempt to merge into what's the competitive rate in the market now. It is paid through the DD waiver. So our challenge will be to make our waiver budget stretch to meet the increased expenses, which we believe we can do. No county levy dollars are involved with this.
Okay, but were they getting that $200,000?
They were eating the cost, essentially.
Okay, all right, so no one was paying it.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Commissioner Lenzmeyer?
Wacosa has been pretty aggressive and successful at being able to capture some corporate dollars. And relative to their fundraising in the recent past, the last 4 or 5 years that I'm aware of, they've done pretty well. So it certainly helps that they're able to train their clients up to a point where they actually have work crews out in the community, and that's been fairly successful. And it isn't, yes, it's nice that they can generate a few bucks doing that. Also, for the clients, that's been pretty fulfilling. The notion that those folks should be secluded off in, someplace and not being able to contribute. The group takes pride in being able to do that. That's the clients.
Any other discussion on the consent agenda? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. On our regular board agenda item today, we have on page 115, item G1, and we have Renee Frauen-Dienst, who's the Division Director of Public Health, and Holly Glowitz of the Minnesota Department of Health, who's here to present Stearns County Human Services with the Breastfeeding Friendly Gold Status Award. You may recall that in early 2017, we came to the board, and the board approved our department moving forward with public health accreditation. Accreditation is a process in which public health agencies go through to strengthen and support the department's strategy to move further upstream and do more prevention types of activities. During the past year, I'm happy to report that through Renee's Frauendienst's strong leadership, we've gotten to the point of another milestone, and here to present that is Ms. Frauendienst and Ms. Globutz.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's just almost exactly 1 year ago that the board received the Silver Award for our Breastfeeding Friendly Health Department from the Minnesota Department of Health. So if you want to be a breastfeeding friendly health department, you need to go through 10 steps that actually help build our ability as a health department to promote and support breastfeeding in our community. So last year, the Public Health Division had completed 7 out of the 10 required steps to receive the silver status. And then in 2018, we had staff working through our continuous quality improvement process to complete those last 3 steps that are required. In August, we submitted our application to the Minnesota Department of Health, and then were notified that we had received the gold status work. This is really important for us as well because breastfeeding, increasing breastfeeding rates in our community is one of our goals in our strategic plan for the Public Health Division. So again, we're working towards improvement on a continuous basis. So this work is really extremely important because breastfeeding is probably one of the best things that we can do to help our kids start healthy lives. But there's also benefits to the mother as well. And I've listed in your board packet on page 115 just a couple things to highlight what breastfeeding can do. So for kids, it can reduce ear and respiratory infections, reduces their risk for diarrhea, asthma, and obesity. And for mothers who are breastfeeding, they're less likely to develop diabetes, breast or ovarian cancer. So lots of benefits to both the mom and the babe. But the other thing it does is it really promotes bonding between the mother and the child. And when we have a mom who is bonded to the child, we greatly reduce the risk for abuse and neglect in the future. So not only are we improving the health of the mother and the baby, we're also potentially impacting those child protection costs that we see later down the road. So more breastfeeding is really important. Today, we have Holly Glaubitz here. She is the Worksite Wellness Coordinator for the Minnesota Department of Health, and she's here today to present the Gold Status Breastfeeding Friendly Health Department Award to Stearns County.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me here, and I do remember being here a year ago. This is the fun part of my job, where I get to go and recognize the great work that our local public health departments are doing. I just wanted to note that at the Minnesota Department of Health, we fully understand that local public health has a leadership role to play in providing continuity of care and support for breastfeeding families in the communities that they serve. So we developed the Breastfeeding Friendly Health Department designation, which is a 10-step process. Stearns County is being recognized today for completing all 10 of those steps to receive gold level designation, which means they've shown the ability to collaborate with local community partners like child care centers, workplaces, and healthcare. They've done a really good job of promoting the benefits of breastfeeding to mom and baby, as you heard today, and how important it is to provide that care for the breastfeeding families that they serve. They've also implemented policies through the local public health department showing support for breastfeeding in the community, but also showing support for breastfeeding among their own staff. So when they return to work, they're supported at their workplace to continue to breastfeed or pump while they're at work. So with all that, I'm very happy to present the award, the gold level designation for Breastfeeding Friendly Health Department.
If you, Commissioner Merrick, if you, or Mergen, if you would be interested in receiving the award.
Yeah, should add a photo on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did think this was going to Renee.
It's technically Stearns County, so.
It Is there anything else?
No,
Listen.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that's the end, unless you have something for us.
Well,
Anyone?
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're on our way to accreditation, which is
Yep.
very nice, very great.
Thank you.
Good job.
Great, thank you. At this time, we'll close the Human Services Board meeting and reconvene our regular county board meeting. We are up to item H, which is the budget and levy. Dr. Williams and Randy Schreifels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have before you the resolution that would adopt the 2019 budget. Recall, we've been through this a few times with you, but the total expenditures are over $160 million. The revenues are about $75 million. We're using fund balance of a little over $5 million, and that all results in a tax levy of about $80.5 million dollars. We also have so that's an increase of 3.79% in the levy, and it doesn't say that it's a reduction in the tax rate on the sheet, the final sheet in your packet. It should say a negative 2.27. The tax rate will actually drop because we have a growth in the tax base of over 6% this year. Like I say, I think we've been through it, and so the budget is before you for your action on it.
Commissioners. Commissioner Merrick.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to move approval of the recommended action, and then I have some comments.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that. I want to hear the comments.
Okay, Commissioner Merrick.
Well, my comments are along the lines of that this is not a one-day project. It's a 365-day-a-year project that staff, working with the Budget Committee, comes up with these numbers. And the suggestion I would like to make for future boards and administration is that we develop something on our website where there can be an ongoing suggestion from residents or questions that are related to the budget, not just one time a year. I know the budget process, I think, for staff year starts like in April or something like that. But that doesn't mean that somebody out there may have questions in January and all along the line. So if there's kind of a question and answer, a dialogue, people can, and with copies going, a part of my suggestion is that if someone has a question and if it's on the website or if it goes to administration, that board members be copied on it if they're interested. So there's a free flow of information all year long, not just at one time. There are, as board members know, I develop lots of questions for, and I've got about 5 pages worth here that I sent to our administration, and they responded, which was shared with all the board members. But I think if we go further and try to get the public more involved, and I'm not sure if they would take advantage of the opportunity or not, but something along those lines I think would be good for us. So, my comments.
Commissioner Notch.
And maybe to tag on to that, maybe if we're continuing the, is it quarterly or semi-annual little newsletter booklet, maybe the next one could include, here, kind of the page that you have in here, kind of breaking everything down. I agree with Commissioner Merrick that, the more it's out there, the more hopefully you get engagement from individuals. And in the long run, I think it's helpful for all of us because you get a lot of different insights. And it's not a perfect world, and, it's always nice if you can have a negative number instead of a positive, but, a lot of times there are things that are out of our control. There's also things I do believe staff is doing a great job controlling. So I guess one of the charges I would have is that Dr. Williams in the future, look for trying to minimize as much as possible, which I believe administration's done in the past.
Anyone else? Commissioner Merrick.
Yeah, just one additional comment or question. The software outlay for the was it the dispatch? What was it, like $750,000 or something like that? And,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And one of the questions that I had was, and I don't know how we do this, but looking into the future, software upgrades could be like millions and millions of dollars. If we turned our computer system off, we wouldn't operate.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that we need to be aware of is that, and I didn't realize this years ago, but there are software upgrades, and we need to be on top of that. And I don't know what those dollars will be, but there's a whole bunch of questions, and I'm sure that the public out there has lots of them as well. And so engaging them year-round, I think, would be beneficial for all of us.
Commissioner Persky.
I'll agree with that. You know, working with the private sector especially, and, you know, having just meetings isn't sufficient to do that. When people have good ideas, and maybe it's sometimes spontaneous, if they can get that to us online, by all means, let's get that information. And we've got some very capable and brilliant people in the county that can probably help us with some ideas as well. So, I mean, the flow of information will be quite good.
I made my position known in September, so, and I just can't support yearly $2 million increases in the levy, so. Is there anyone else has anything? Commissioner Notch?
I'll just be a little facetious here, but it'd be kind of interesting if you threw out all computer systems, all worry about cybersecurity, and everything went back to the old method. What would be the cost or the staffing implications, you know, if you had to go back? That would be an interesting number to come up with. Yeah. I mean, that's expensive, having
Dr. Williams?
computers, software. It would be interesting where that would place the
Are
county.
you suggesting that as a weekend project for Dr. Williams?
I think it'd be more than a weekend.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Historically, Dwayne used to explain to us how they used to do things in the treasurer's office. And, you know, I don't know that I missed those explanations, but I certainly remember them. So.
I don't think you want me to bore you with them.
Anything else? Not all in favor, signify with aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Randy?
Commissioner Persky,
Aye.
Commissioner Notch,
Aye.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan,
Nay.
Commissioner Merrick,
Aye.
Commissioner Morgan is nay. Passes 4-1.
Thank you. We are up to items by commissioners, and we'll start today with Commissioner Merrick.
I don't have anything today, thank you.
I have no surprises. Commissioner Persky?
I have nothing today.
Commissioner Notch?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer?
Since Dwayne was on the board, we developed the habit of taking a break anywhere between 10 and 10:30 for certain biological reasons. I would say that now that somebody's going to replace Dwayne, I'd say it'd be up to them or Joe to make that call. Just a suggestion. I mean, it's certainly been a service to all of us that merits continuation.
You've got such a way with words.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenzmeyer. Is there anyone else? Dr. Williams?
Nothing.
Randy? Okay. Seeing nothing, this meeting is adjourned.